Hey guys, in today's video we will compare base model M1 MacBook Air versus 12-inch iPad Pro from last year. With new iPads Pro announced being just around the corner, we thought it would be a good idea to compare these two devices, since they share quite a lot of features and they aren't priced too far from each other. That said, both of these devices serve different purpose, but in some cases they are rather very similar. Hopefully, after watching this, you will be able to decide which one is better for you. This is not a review, since these devices are not brand new and you can find hundreds of these on YouTube already. Let's begin the overview with the iPad Pro. Very minor update from 2018 Pro lineup with new cameras, LiDAR sensor, better mics, and of course trackpad support. I own several iPads prior to this one, and it isn't just a tablet device anymore. For instance, trackpad support moves iPad versatility closer to that laptop territory. It is known that iPad defined tablet category back in 2010, and while there are still many Android tablets out there, user experience is mostly incomparable. Current design was first introduced back in 2018 and is in my opinion best looking iPad we ever had. 4 side narrow bezels, flat edges, Face ID and USB-C connector. This design is sleek and beautiful, and even despite its larger size, it is very comfortable to hold even in one hand. But it wouldn't be a complete experience without the accessories. If we look back, iPad used to be seen by many as a media consumption device rather than productivity tool. This has all changed with trackpad support introduced last year. Apple gave us rather expensive Magic Keyboard with backlit keycaps similar to one on MacBooks, minus function keys, tiny trackpad, not a fancy force trackpad but rather more traditional trackpad which actually clicks. With the Magic Keyboard you can actually quickly and efficiently navigate around documents, edit videos, photos and Excel spreadsheets. Some trackpad gestures are even borrowed from macOS. Oh yeah, and it also serves as a quite good protective case for your iPad. Of course, Mac does not support touch, and this is where iPad truly shines. With its 120Hz refresh screen combined with a super low 9 millisecond input latency, drawing, painting or simple note-taking is simply brilliant and not far from the real paper pen experience. Well, maybe except the glossy finish, but that can be easily fixed with a good screen protector. There really isn't anything like this out there. I would say Apple Pencil is a massive accessory for the iPad. While iPad looks like something from the future, MacBook Air looks rather traditional. It is still a very thin and light portable device. Yes, bezels could be much thinner, but besides that, it is still a very sleek looking machine. Best-in-class force trackpad combined with a decent keyboard make this laptop truly appealing. However, real star of the show is of course M1 Apple Silicon chip, which is actually based on the same CPU featured in the iPad Pro lineup from 2020. No internal fans put this laptop even closer to the iPad, but the real advantage are of course proper RAM management and full-fledged macOS. While iPad has one USB-C, MacBook Air offers 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports and audio jack if anyone still cares. Right, let's talk about display. iPad Pro features 12.9-inch liquid retina display, which is just a fancy name for Apple's really good looking LCD display. Seriously, saturation, contrast and brightness on this panel are simply unreal. This display is so good that in certain situations you might think that it's actually using OLED technology. Yes, I wish Apple would finally introduce OLED panels on iPad, but that combined with 120Hz refresh rate could be tricky to implement on such a thin device. Who knows, maybe later this year? ProMotion 120Hz refresh rate makes navigating around iPadOS very responsive and sleek, and all animations are buttery smooth. Panel supports P3 white color scheme and it can peak at 600 nits. Screen also supports True Tone. MacBook Air features slightly larger 13.3-inch Retina display with the same P3 white color and True Tone technology. However, it is slightly dimmer with maximum brightness of 400 nits. Viewing angles are decent, but we just cannot overlook those bezels. MacBook Air also has a lower resolution at 2560 by 1600 versus 2732 by 2048. That said, iPad is a clear winner with much brighter, high resolution, high refresh rate, and of course touch supported screen. Now let's talk about keyboard. Magic Keyboard isn't the only option out there, but as the overall package, we think is the one to get. Right, first the bad stuff. As mentioned before, there are no function keys, which means that if you quickly need to adjust the brightness or skip the song, you will have to do so via the control center. Keyboard does not quite tilt as much as it should, but this is, in my opinion, absolutely fine for most typing positions. Trackpad is tiny and there are no haptics, but for such a thin package, it is great to actually have one. It's smooth and responsive and makes navigating iPadOS feels very refreshing and quick. With a price of $350, it is definitely overpriced. Despite that, we would still recommend you to get one if you take productivity on iPad seriously. After infamous butterfly keyboards, Apple finally returned to more traditional scissor switch on their current lineup. Magic Keyboard feedback and travel distance are comparable if not the same to those on Magic Keyboard for iPad. I would say the keyboard is okay, but not great. One thing that is absolutely brilliant about this laptop is its best-in-class force trackpad. While not as large as the one on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, still spacious enough for all the gestures needed to navigate around macOS. MacBook wins having much better trackpad, while keyboards are pretty much the same. You can also connect mouse and keyboards of your choice via Bluetooth if needed. And now let's talk about audio. iPad Pro features quad speaker setup with excellent audio with dynamic resolution support, which means it doesn't matter if you watch content on landscape or portrait mode, you will always get correct left and right audio channels. MacBook Air, on the other hand, only has two front-facing speakers with wide audio support and Dolby Atmos playback support. I would say both systems sounds equally good, which is impressive considering their dimensions. One thing I should note here is that spatial audio feature, which works with AirPods Pro and AirPods Max, only works on iPad, and experience is brilliant but limited at this point. Right, so which one of these devices is better for getting things done really depends on the nature of your work. For example, someone who mainly works with the spreadsheets will have different workflow from someone who works in the creative fields. First, iPad. With split screen support, fully fledged keyboard, and A12Z chip, iPad Pro is a true powerhouse. With the all-day battery life and a bright screen, all in this beautiful thin package. A12Z is an extremely capable CPU and you should never run out of processing power. So yes, it is a great productivity machine and you can get the work done on it, whether it's Office 365 related work, create art in Procreate, create music. With iPad Pro, you can do it all with the breeze. iPad is now more capable than ever before, so yes, it can fully replace your laptop if you're willing to take some sacrifices. As for the MacBook, with more and more M1 optimized apps out there, you can run most productivity apps natively, including Office 365 and Adobe CC apps. If you want to learn more about this topic, check out our video for top 5 productivity apps for M1 Mac. The fact is that if you don't need touch support for your workflow, you will have a great screen, decent keyboard, and absolutely brilliant trackpad to your disposal. As for the app selection, except some of course, you can find most popular apps on both iPad and macOS in some shape or form. Biggest downside of getting work done on the iPad is its RAM management. You might actually become very annoyed with how often some apps do refresh. On the other hand, MacBook with only 8 gigs of RAM manages to shuffle the memory around without having direct effect on your workflow. MacBook Air takes a win here, unless you need to get some creative work done using Apple Pencil. Now, this one is fairly obvious, since iPad can be used anywhere and it is simply best way to read articles, books, watching videos, or just listening to your favorite podcast. Actually, unless I need to do something specifically on Mac, I always reach for the iPad first. There's something about holding this beautiful large slate of glass while reading your favorite book. It all feels very futuristic and sci-fi like. With MacBook, media consumption experience is rather more traditional. Panel is great, however not as bright as the one on the iPad Pro, but speakers are great, so watching videos or listening podcasts will be a pleasing experience. Okay, regarding gaming, I'm mainly going to focus on Apple Arcade, since that's the way you can game on both devices. Yes, you can also play some fully fledged games on Mac, but you know, that's not why you bought your base MacBook Air for. I think iPad has a slight upper hand here, since you can place it anywhere, and when paired with Xbox or PS controller, it makes a perfect gaming combo on the go. Apple Arcade library is growing, with the new games being added almost every week, and most of them are actually pretty decent. Games look absolutely stunning, especially if game supports high refresh rate. Some of my favorite games to currently play in the arcade are Ocean Horde 2, Mini Motorways, What the Golf, and The Last Campfire. Oh yeah, and there's also an app store full of truly amazing games specifically written for the iPad, utilizing gyroscope or touch input. With MacBook, it is a very similar experience when compared to the iPad, minus the touch input and the fact that you cannot place it on tight places because of its clamshell design. Also, since the display does not get too bright, it might be tricky to play outside on the direct sunlight. Both devices are more than capable to game, especially games from App Store or Apple Arcade. We should not forget to mention that you can also use GeForce Now from Nvidia and Stadia from Google to stream games on your iPad or Mac. From my own experience, playing Cyberpunk 2077 on iPad is a brilliant experience on the go, as long as you have a steady Wi-Fi connection. That said, if you want us to do a video on how games run on the base M1 MacBook Air, let us know down below in the comment section. Apple claims 10 hours of browsing on Wi-Fi, which is roughly about what I was able to get, and of course, standby time is unreal. For MacBook Air, Apple claims 15 hours of wireless web browsing or 18 hours Apple TV app movie playback. From my own experience, MacBook Air on M1 easily lasts one full day of very intensive workload, or with the moderate use, it can easily last over 4 days, which put this laptop in a separate league. MacBook Air takes a win here, as it not only has a larger battery, but also lasts much longer. Okay, so pricing is a funny one here. So base M1 MacBook Air costs $1,000 and 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the same 256GB of storage, $1,100, which is $100 more. Adding Magic Keyboard for full experience is extra $350, and Apple Pencil 2nd generation is another $130, which totals as $1,580, which is insane. That's M1 MacBook Pro with 512GB of SSD money. Once again, it really depends what you need your device for. iPad is more versatile and futuristic, but in some ways limited, and MacBook on the other hand is simply just more traditional experience. Okay, so here is our conclusion. If you aren't on a tight budget and you enjoy using truly mobile devices from the future, while taking a few sacrifices, go for iPad Pro, you won't be disappointed. Remember, new Pro lineup is just around the corner, which means you should be able to grab 2020 model cheaper, and if you're lucky, maybe even bundle it with a Magic Keyboard or Apple Pencil. As for MacBook Air with M1, you can now even get it as refurbished directly from the Apple, which really makes picking this one a no-brainer. So if you are someone who prefers to use more traditional laptop for work and entertainment, M1 MacBook Air is the perfect choice for the money. If you want us to do more videos like this one, let us know down below in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.